Today we're going to be talking about the SARB033, the watch that I have on my wrist right here, and also what I believe to be the second best watch offered by Seiko in terms of value at the moment. But we're also going to be talking about the Seiko SDGM033, not 033, excuse me, 003, which comes in at around $700. Now, if you're not familiar with either of these two watches, I will have pictures of, of the SDGM003 going up right over here throughout the video. But I do also have a review of the Seiko SARB033 on my channel, and there should be a link to that video right here. So if you want to watch those and come on back so you know what I'm talking about, definitely go do that now. But if the rest of you are still here and still with me, then you know exactly which watches that I'm talking about. You're familiar with the SARB. I'm a very big fan of the SARB033 and 035. Obviously that's the white dial version of the SARB033. But I did want to kind of go over the watches that Seiko offers, and the SDGM was just kind of brought to my attention. I originally had looked at the Seiko SARX 013 or 15. This is the white dial version with blue hands, and I thought it was very interesting, but it didn't really capture my attention the way that the Seiko SDGM003 did. Now, the 003 is very, very similar to the SARB033, and you can see that in the pictures that I'm playing over there. And maybe even a video or two, if you guys are lucky. If I feel like editing that in, really is what I should say. But the SDGM has one distinct feature that the SARB033 doesn't have, and that is basically the sunburst effect. So if you are familiar with the SARB line, the 065, which is the white version of this watch, slightly larger, it has the cocktail, it's nicknamed the cocktail time. I know all of these different watch numbers and model numbers and names get really confusing, but basically the cocktail time watch has the same sunburst effect as the SDGM003. Now, if you've been watching the channel for a long time, you know I'm not a really big fan of the SARB065, but that was mostly because of the price. I didn't think the price increase was justified, but here I am today talking about the SDGM003, which has the same kind of design pattern as the cocktail time, but it's in black, and it is much more expensive. So the SDGM is actually $700 to $750 depending on where you look. Obviously, if you buy used, I'm not sure why anyone would ever sell one of these used, but if you find one used, you could probably get one for like the $400 to $500 range, which would be an incredible value. But the SARB033 is half of that price new. So the question is, do these watches, is the watch, the SDGM003, worth double the price? And it's such an interesting question because we all know as watch collectors that as you increase the price, you're not necessarily getting a lot of extra functionality or quality. At least that's been my experience going from $200 watches to $1,000 watches. There are a few upgrades in quality, but it's not really worth it necessarily. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. It's dependent upon what you're looking for. But I do want to kind of go through the differences between these two pieces and explain to you why I think the SDGM003 is the big brother to the SARB033 and probably worth the extra money. I really hope to pick one of these up. By the pictures that I'm displaying, it should be apparent to you that this is a very beautiful watch that's probably worth your time to consider. So, the SDGM003 is slightly larger than the SARB-Piece. The SDGM is 40.5 millimeters in diameter, so it is a little bit larger, and I think that's on the upper end of what I would be comfortable wearing on my pretty small and girly wrists, whereas the SARB033 is 37 millimeters, so it is much smaller. It looks nicer on smaller wrists, but again, larger watches do tend to be more expensive. So I think probably about $100 or so of the increased price for the SDGM probably goes into that increased size. Another really interesting thing about the watch, and I'm going to go through pretty much everything. I think the case is a little bit better done and better finished than the SARB033 for the SDGM. And you'll be able to see that with all the pictures in the video that I'm putting up again. But I also do believe that the bracelet of the SDGM is actually probably worthy of the watch, which is a big difference from the SARB033. As you guys can see, I've completely changed out the bracelet from the SARB033. I put it on this nice leather band. That was mainly because I didn't really like the finishing on the SARB033's bracelet, and I did think that it was a little bit pebbly. Again, you can see all my detailed review on my channel, so definitely go look at that. I don't think, again, I haven't experienced the SDGM for myself, but from what I've read online and what I've seen, the bracelet is a pretty big step up. So again, this is kind of what you're paying for. I do have a few notes here on the dial of the watch. So the hands slightly taper. That's especially elegant and noticeable on the second hand of the SDGM003. There is no lume on this watch. The SARB033 does have a bit of lume, which could be a positive for you or could be a negative. Some people say that on a dress watch, you really shouldn't have any lume because it's not really supposed to be used as a tool. It's supposed to be used in an office environment or at a nice dinner, or, you know, whenever you dress up. And basically you should be able to, you wouldn't have to worry about looking at it in the dark. I do think that adding lume to the SDGM003 would have made it less elegant and less refined. I think the SARB033 kind of makes it work. So I believe in my review I actually don't take points off for it having lume. The indices on the SDGM003 are slightly thinner and longer. They are chamfered around the edges, and it does look like they are better finished and better polished than the indices on the SARB033. So I do think, again, you do have a slight boost in quality when it comes to the hour indices on the dial. Obviously, as I said before, it has the sunburst effect, which you do not get on the SARB033. And what I actually do really like about this sunburst effect, and you'll see this in the picture over here, is that the effect is actually very, very subtle, and you have to kind of get the watch in direct sunlight to observe the sunburst pattern, which I do believe actually adds to the appeal of the watch, because when wearing a dress watch, you don't necessarily want something that is really flashy or out there. The one kind of downside about the SDGM is that it does not have a signed crown. I really wish that Seiko had just put the crown from the SARB033, which, you know, I think works well. It winds the watch well. It's easy to use, onto the SDGM003. Instead, it has kind of a black opal tip on the top of it. I would have just preferred a signed crown. Maybe that adds something for you, but personally, I don't really think it adds to the overall appeal of the watch. So the only flaws, again, as I said, there is no signed crown, and I wish the bracelet tapered a little bit more than it does. It does taper ever so slightly, but it is very hard to see. And coming from, you know, this watch is almost $1,000, and the watches in the $1,000 range usually do have tapering bracelets. So that pretty much wraps up my thoughts and kind of what I wanted to share with you in terms of the SDGM003 and its comparison to the SARB033. Yikes, these numbers do get confusing. Let me know in the comment section below what your thoughts are about these two watches, and definitely let me know what you think the best Seiko watch, you know, the best Seiko dress watch is out there. So I really do look forward to seeing you all again later. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. I think we're just about to hit 1,000 subscribers, so thank you all so much for watching. My name is Josh. Bye.